Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So I'm excited to share this with you today. It's the Rhombus cuff, and this is taking my Rhombus bracelet that I recently posted a tutorial on and putting it on a cuff blank. So this is what it looks like. Isn't that cool? So this was not my idea. This was from one of my viewers, Karin. She posted it on Facebook, and I'll show you the picture she posted. Isn't that gorgeous? I loved it so much that I asked her if I could make a video out of it, a tutorial for everyone, and she said yes. So I'm thrilled to be able to show this to you today. So let me move my phone aside. Okay, so here it is in 3 colors. I want to make more. It was so much fun. So stay tuned and we'll get started on this cup. Okay, let's get a materials list going. So you need 2 colors of 11-Os. So I have a base color and then a contrasting color. A 15-O. I'm using an 8-O to do my edging, but you can use a 15-O. Got some 3mm fire polish. I got a stop bead. We have the ultra suede, a cuff blank. This is a 3/4 inch cuff blank. Got a sharp scissor, some Elmer's glue. If you have some E6000, that will be helpful also. I've got a bunch of beading needles here, so you want have a few sizes around, just because there's some small beads. So you might need a 12, you might need an 11, you might need a 10. I've got some Fireline here, and I meant to take out some 6 or 8 pound Fireline, and I have this 4 pound, and this worked so well for attaching the bracelet to the ultra suede, because you're making this bracelet and then you've got a lot of thread going through there. So doing the bracelet with the 6 pound or the 8 pound and then doing the attaching it to the ultra suede with the 4 pound just really worked out well. And then the edging, of course, you'll do with the 6 or 8 pound. But you can really just use all 6 or 8 pound. You just may have to sort of maneuver a little to get through some of the beads. All right, so I think that's everything. A ruler, and I think I said a stop bead. Anything I didn't mention, I will put in the description box below the video. All sizes, shapes, colors, amounts, links to beads, links to beads, bead websites, everything you need. So don't forget to click the down arrow or the show more, and the box will open. Everything will be there. And like I said, check that materials list for sure. All right, so I'm going to clear this off and we'll get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out our ultra suede, and we're going to glue, just like this one, the interior piece on. So the way we're going to do that, I already cut 2 pieces, but I'll show you how I did it, is you're going to take your cuff, and you want to find, well, it doesn't really matter at this point. The ultra suede has a top and a bottom, so I think this fuzzy part is meant to be the top and this is meant to be bottom. However, sometimes I make this the top. Whatever I'm feeling. All right, so you actually want to cut a piece, and the easiest way to do this is just to cut a piece bigger than the width of your bracelet all the way down. So my bracelet measures, my cuff blank measures, mine is 3/4 inch, which is 6/8. Ideally, you want about a 1/16 inch once you've glued it on. So you want about a 1/16 inch here above the edge. I'm even probably a little smaller than that. But I think that you don't want it huge. So between a 1/16 and an 1/8 inch, so that when you sew the two together, you have just enough right here to grab with your needle and put on, and bead your edging. If it's too much, you can have a gap in there. So I say between a 1/16, like a 1/16 and a little bit, but not quite an 1/8 on either side. All right, so in order to do that, one very easy way to do it is just put your cuff down like this and just make it bigger. Just cut a piece that's much larger, maybe like so. And then you can, once you glue it on, you can trim the edges. You can even trim even beforehand, but maybe put like a 1/4 inch on either side, just like that. And that way you'll have a 1/4 inch sticking up here, and you can just trim around. Sometimes it's easier to do that. I kind of like to do it all in one, so I just you know, I kind of, you know, do it so just the edge I want sticking out is cut, but you could mess it up that way. I mean, I've been doing this a while, so it's a little bit easier for me. So the way I would measure this, if you want to do it this way, is I have my bracelet is 6/8. I want a 16th on either side sticking out, so then I would do it 7/8. I would make my bracelet 7/8. I'd cut my ultra suede 7/8 of an inch wide. And the way I do that is all I do is go to the edge, and I make sure the edge is straight. Now this is not a straight edge because I've already cut it, but let's say you're on a straight edge here. I'm just going to measure 7/8 of an inch, which would be right here from the top. Make sure you do it accurately. Put a dot. As long as you're straight at the top, 7/8 of an inch again, put a dot. And I'll do that about 6 or 7 times down the line. And then all I do is go like so with my ruler. I draw a line like that. And then I just cut the line with my scissors right up the line, and I'll do 2 exactly that size. So for my 3/4 of an inch cuff, I'm doing 7/8 or much bigger, and then I'm cutting it down so that I have this 16th of an inch or a little bit more on either side. I don't really worry about the ends right here because you can cut those anytime. All right, so get that done and then come on back, and I will glue in the
okay, so let's glue the ultra suede to the inside of the cuff. So here I have one of my pieces. So I'm going to put the side where I have my, you know, pen marks down like that so you don't see them. And I'm just going to take some white glue right here, and I'm going to use my finger because you're going to have to spread it around, and the finger works best. So just pick a little bit up and just start spreading it on the interior right here. You want a nice layer. Not putting too much on, just enough to coat it so that the ultra suede will stick. Okay, so just make sure you get to the edge. So this is what it looks like. That's about right. All right, so I'm just going to get a tissue and wipe the glue off because you don't want any glue on that ultra suede. And then I'm going to pick up my ultra suede and I'm just going to fold it over. So this is the part that's going down. Yep. So I'm just folding it in half. I'm just going to place it right in there like that and just start tapping it down. And here you can play a little bit. So I've got it tapped down on the inside lightly, and then I'm just going to make sure that I have the same amount of ultra suede all the way around. So you can mess with it a little bit here to make sure that you're kind of even all the way around. And then I just press in and make sure there aren't any bubbles. You can feel it a little bit to see if you have any bubbles. And then you can, actually I would wait for it to dry before I trim around this part, or you can just trim that later. I'm not really worried about the ends because you know you can trim those at any time. So I will wait for it to dry and then I'll trim those. So there you go. What you want. I'm just going to let it dry. I let it dry overnight. I make sure it's nice and dry before I play with it again. So get that done and then come back and we'll do some beading.
Okay, let's get some beading done. So this is what we're going for. So I'm going to thread my needle with about 2.5 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, and leave a 6 to 8 inch tail. So I've picked up and dropped down to my stop bead 4 of my 11 seed beads in this turquoise Picasso color. So here we are. Just going to sew those into a unit by sewing through. I'm going to sew through all the beads like that, and then
right past the stop bead. One or two more. Kind of reinforces it a bit. And that's what I have. I'm just going to move my thread down one more. And this is where we are. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a copper seed bead, 11-0 in the turquoise, a copper, oops, dropped it, there we go, copper, and a turquoise. So this is what I have. Exiting here, doesn't matter if you're exiting top or bottom. Just sew through the other side of the bead you're exiting. That's what I have. Sew through this one. And then this one. I'm going to pick up 3 of my copper beads. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. Oops, like that. I'm going to sew through this bead. And then this one, just adding on right angle weave units. That's what I have. Now I'm going to continue on with 3 of my turquoise beads, making another unit. Just like that. One more. I'm going to pick up 3 turquoise, exiting here, sewing through this one, through the bottom one, and then up through this one. This is what I have. I have 5 units on, so I have 2 turquoise on either end, and I have the copper in the middle. Let's get that done and come back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back and here's where we are. We have our 5 units on. So now we're going to go round and round, adding more beads on. So here I'm exiting this bead. I'm just going to sew through this one. Just going down the side. That's what it looks like. Now I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. I'm going to sew through the next sticking out bead right there. And I'm going to continue that all the way down. So another one. Another one. Again. Just move my tail thread out of the way. Cool. So I've added all the beads on one side. I'm just going to sew directly through this top bead here. Turning my piece just so I can hold it better. And then I'm just going to continue just sewing with no beads on through this one. And now I want to add beads down the other end. So, other side. So, turquoise. Other one. Again. And if you need a more in-depth look at this, I'll link just the plain bracelet down below in the description box. And then here, this one here. And this is what I have. Okay, let's continue. So I'm exiting this bead right here. Here's my top bead here. I'm going to make some, like, square off the edges here. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead and I'm going to just sew through that top bead right there. And just place that on, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Just going to place it on like that. And to see how I've got this little, two little like sort of squared edges. And then just hold this a little better. So I'm exiting this bead right here. I want you to sew through that next one. It's kind of sticking out a little bit more than the others, so just sew through it without any beads on. And now we're going to add some more beads. So we're going to add 3 beads. We're going to add one here, and one here. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side, to the other, the other end. So picking up a bead, I'm going to sew through this one. Pick up another one. I'm going to sew through this one, and they're slightly sticking out, so you should be able to see them. And one more. This one's going to go through this one. So you see I put 3 beads on that side. Now you just want to go right up the next one without any beads on your needle. Come on, you. Got it. Like that. And let me just do that. So now you see on this end, I'm to have the same thing. I have that little bead at the top, so I want to put 1 bead on either side of that bead. So picking up 11-0, sew through the top bead, pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to sew through this next one. You can go on and sew through the next one after that. I just wanted to show you like where the thread path is going. So here, I'll just sew through the next one. So I have my top on now, and then right through this one. Just turn my piece to make it easier to sew. So that's where I'm exiting. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to put 1 here, here, and here. So exiting here, just going to like skip this one and sew through this one. Just putting 3 beads on. Skipping that copper one and sewing through the next one. One more time, skipping this one, sewing through this one, and you can go straight up through the other 2 if you like, or do them one at a time. So like that, so that you're exiting the top. This is exactly what you want. Okay, next up are the fire polish beads and some more beads on the side. So I'm going to pick up a fire polish, 3mm fire polish. Exiting this one, I'm just going to sew through the next one. And it's going to sit kind of wonky, so you want to put your needle through and hold with your thumb and straighten it out a little bit. Just like that. Now I'm just going to advance until I get to these 3 beads here, so this first one. So I'm just going to sew my needle through the next 2. No beads on. And then this one. I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I'm going to sew through this one. Again, to the next one. Now I'm just going to advance my needle so I come out of this top bead. So through these 2. No beads on my needle. And then this one. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, picking up a fire polish. I'm going to sew through this one. I'm going to put my needle through, put my thumb on it, and straighten it out. Now I'm going to just advance my needle till I'm coming out of this bead. So just sew through the next 2. And this one. Going a little faster now. I'm going to just add our 2 11-0s here, here, like that. And then I'm going to advance my needle up through. I want to come out of that fire polish, so I'm going to advance here. And then up this one, across the fire polish. And this is what I have. Let's move on. We have one more round to do, but what we're going to do here is we're going to, exiting the fire polish, we're just going to sew through the next. We want to just get right here. So sew through the next 3, and then these 2. Picking up a fire polish. I'm going to go all the way down the line again till we get to the top. Just placing that fire polish right there. So this one through the fire polish. Yeah, round, I told you, round and around. And then through this line of beads again, going ahead of here. Pop in your last fire polish. And then you want to just go all the way down and come out of the fire polish bead. Just like that. Right, so we're almost there. We've got that sort of top face of the unit done. So get that done and come back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So let's continue on. So I'm going to pick up 5 of my copper 11-0s. Exiting the fire polish, I'm just going to sew through the next fire polish. And do that again. Like that. So do that 2 more times, come through the fire polish, and then we'll continue. So here we are coming out of the fire polish bead. So I've gotten all the groups of 5 on. So now I'm going to sew through that group of 5 that I put on, and I'm going to skip the next fire polish bead and sew through the next group of 5. And that's going to kind of pull it in a little bit. It's going to pull those groups of 5 together. See that? You don't have to pull too tight. Do that all the way around. So just skipping the fire polish, making sure that you have a thread that goes from here to here, so around the fire polish. That. Like that. And just check them all. Make sure you have a thread going through each one. You're not going to see that thread. You know, it's going to be minimized like that. So this is what we have so far. Okay, we're back. So here I'm exiting that last group of 5, and I have a thread in front of each one of the fire polish. Now I'm just going to go through the fire polish, all 5 of the beads, fire polish, the 5. So we're just going to do that all the way around to kind of secure it. And that way it'll be nice and secure and ready to sew this unit to the next one. So here, just like that, give it a little press, just like that. So here you go. Let's sew a couple of units together. So I'm exiting a fire polish. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a fire polish, and a 15-0. Very simple. Just going to go through the fire polish on the other unit. And then a 15-0 fire polish. 15-0. Back through this one. Like that. And you can reinforce now if you like, but don't reinforce too much because we're going to have to go through the beads again. So maybe go around once, and then sew, when you sew your thread in, just make sure you go through the blue beads, you know, the top beads, so you're not putting any knots where we have to go through again. All right, so get that done and come back and we'll continue. We're going to work on getting this bracelet onto the Ultra Suede. So before we start sewing, I'm going to put a little glue on and let it dry so that it holds it in place while I sew. So I've just sort of made my Ultra Suede is pretty long here, so I'm just going to put this in the center, and then I can kind of adjust where it's going to go, make sure that it's even, comes out evenly on both sides. So all I'm going to do, I'm really eyeballing it here, but you can do all kinds of measuring if you like. I've taken a little bit of E6000. I put it in this little tray. Actually, you should probably put it somewhere where, if you don't want to lose your tray, I'll scrape it off. And I'm taking a tiny bit on the end, like you really should use a toothpick, let's say. And I'm just going to dab a little bit on the Firepolished beads. You can even do a little bit on the 11-0s if you want, but you can just do the fire polish if you want. I just kind of do the whole thing, but a tiny bit. You don't want to get anything in the holes. You just want to give it a little, just a dab. It's not going to hold it. We're not going to be relying on this glue to hold everything down. It's the sewing that's going to hold it down. And then I just take the piece, and I'm just going to, so let's say I've done it on the whole thing, and I'm just going to pop it down like that and press that down. So I didn't do it on the whole thing, I just did it on this one end piece. And I'm just going to let it dry. And I'm going to let it dry until it's actually dry. So it could be, several hours. And I just make sure at this point you can play with it to kind of adjust it. It looks, like I said, I eyeballed the middle. And then after it dries, then we're going to go through and I'm going to sew the whole thing down so it's nice and secure. Okay, so we're back and we're going to start sewing this down. So the glue is held nicely, but it's not going to hold completely. You really need to sew this down. So just a note, I'm not in my studio today, so my lighting might be a little off, but we'll do our best here. All right, so I'm going to start at this end. I'm going to do each unit separately. So I threaded my needle with about 2 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, and leave a tail to sew in. I'm coming through the back. I want to come right up through the Ultra Suede in front of this Firepolished bead. Let me pull in super tight. Okay, so just kind of have your needle come up from the back. Let that stop bead stop your thread. And then I'm going to sew through the Firepolish. Now, I'm going to go back down through my Ultra Suede right in front of the Firepolish, and it's going to grab a little piece of suede and hold the bead down like that, and then back up again. Now you don't want to go through the same hole. You won't. It will be impossible for you to get through that. If you get through the same hole, it'll be surprising. You don't want to do that. You want it to grab a little piece of Ultra Suede so it holds the beads down. All right, so here I'm exiting. Right here, I'm just going to sew through all 5 of the 11-0s. I'm just going to move my piece around so it's comfortable to sew, like that. Now I'm going to sew down through the Ultra Suede right where, right at the end of where those 11-0s are, and then back up again. Piece of suede as we go through the Firepolish. You got it. Down the Ultra Suede again. Back up. Through the next 5 11-0s. Down the Ultra Suede, back up again, yeah, going around now, through the Firepolish. You got it. So I've started here, I've come to here, I'll just keep going around and sew through this one again, and then we'll move on to attaching the next one. Okay, we're back, so I'm just going to start you on getting this part sewn down, and then you'll just continue on. So I've threaded my needle again with the same amount of thread. If you have thread left over, you can just use that. So I have my stop bead on, and I'm just coming up through to the back of the Ultra Suede in front of this bead here. And let me just grab that knot out of my thread. There we go. I'm going to go through the fire polish. And yeah, just like before, I'm going to go down the Ultra Suede and then back up again. And you'll get as close as possible. I'm like, you know, sometimes it takes a second or two to get in the right place. So we're up again, and now we're going to sew through the 15-0 fire polish. 15-0. We're going to sew down the Ultra Suede right in front of that fire polish, and 15-0. Back up again. Through the fire polish. Got it. Down. Back up. Through the 15-0. Fire polish 15-0. Back down. Up again. I was a little far away there. You get closer through the fire polish. And so on. So now you're going to just do the same thing on this one. So you're going to go down, up, through these guys, you know, down, up, through the rest of the guys, and get that entire one done. And then you'll start again and do the next one and the next one until you're all tacked down nicely, and that should give you a nice secure bracelet. All right, so get that done, and then when we get back, we'll glue the Ultra Suede to the cuff. Okay, so you've finished a unit, and what I do with the thread after is it's coming out of the back. I just go back up right through the Ultra Suede and through the green beads. I'm not going through a bead, I'm just in between beads. And then I just do that again. I go down right through the Ultra Suede in between beads, and then I just somewhere close to where you came out, up again. And you can do that a few times, and then just clip the thread from the top. All right, okay, we're back. So here's my piece, and here's the cuff. It's all dry on the inside. And then you want to sort of position this. You want to get it positioned so that your beading is centered, or where you want your beading to be. So the way I did that was I just wrapped it around, and I placed it where I thought it would, you know, I'd have about the same on either end. And then I just cut the top piece of Ultra Suede to fit the bottom piece, so they know when I put it on and I put these together right here that this one's going to be in the right place as well. Okay, we're back, and now the moment of truth. We're going to glue this guy on. I'm so excited. All right, so just get your little, I don't know if you can see, I just put some glue on a piece of paper. Really can't see it with the sun shining through, so just like so. This is way too much. And just take it with your finger, and I'm going to put it on the cuff, just the metal part of the cuff, just like I did on the inside. So you're just gonna just do like so. Doing a little at a time so I don't make too much of a mess.
organized. There we go. All right. So all the way to the end, like that. So I'll go clean off my finger and then we'll attach the ultra. Okay, let's do it. So I just want to, just gonna kind of put it on like so, and then I'm going to match up my ends like that. See, I've just got a little bit over the edge, just like the other piece. Just put that on like that, and now you can do any adjustments that you like. You can check out your edges, make sure you're centered the way you want to be, or you want the beads where you want them to be. And then you're just going to press that down. You could even give it a little pull from either end. And then you're just going to let this dry. Make sure that that your edges meet on from the bottom interior piece of suede, ultra suede, to the top piece. If they're not, you can trim them so that they're the same amount sticking out, and then you're just going to let this dry. You can't put some clothespins here if you like. Just be careful that you don't cause any dents. This is staying on pretty nicely, so I think I'm just going to leave it. All right, so get that done, and then we'll come back after this is dry and we'll do the edging, which will just finish this cuff off beautifully. Okay, so here's my cuff, and it dried very nicely. It just came out great. So before I do the edging, I just want to cut these edges a little bit. So you just want to make sure you leave the same amount of distance from the cuff, the blank, to your ultra suede. And to do that, you'll just sort of peel it back a little bit, and then just make sure you cut. You can see the little blank there, and then just cut all the way around. I'm not going to go all the way around here, but just keep going until you get to the side, and then you'll just cut this top piece to meet the bottom piece. I'm just afraid I'm going to mess it up on camera. Okay, so do that on both sides. Make sure you have that, that 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and then come back and we'll do the edging. Okay, we're back, and I'm all trimmed up and it's ready to go. So let's get that edging on. So thread your needle with about 5 or 6 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, leave about a 8-inch tail or so. You can start anywhere you want to start. I kind of like to do these last, so I'm just gonna start right here. So when I put my needle through, I'm going to come through the back to the front, and you're just going to hit the top of the metal there. You can feel the metal, so you're going to go through both pieces of suede. I'm holding it with my forefinger. And if a lot of thread is too much for you to handle, just put on what's comfortable. So here, that's what it looks like. And now I'm going to sew back up through the bead I just put on. And that's going to kind of sit the first bead on like that. And we'll secure that again later. I'm going to pick up another bead, and you want to just kind of judge where that's going to go. You want it to be about that bead's length over, up through, from the back to the front. And then up. Like that. Now as I said, we'll tighten this up later on the end. So now I have 2 beads on. That's all there is to it. Easy, right? Do another one. Pop that one on. And then back to front, and then through the bead. And that's all there is to it. I like using the 8/0s because it goes faster and it looks pretty. You can really use any bead here. So just like that. And you can do that all the way around. And when you get to the, come around, you get to the other, to the rounded part, you don't really have to do anything special. Just keep putting them on one next to the other. until your cuff is completely edged, and then come back and we'll finish. Okay, so I'm coming down to the end, and I have space there, but I really only have space for one bead. So I'm going to try to find the biggest bead I have. And if you have, if you fit perfectly, that's great. I don't think that's ever happened to me. So there's a little space in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my bead, and I'm just going to sort of split the difference here and just have a little more space in between them, like that. And then when I when I sew those two together, you're not ever going to see anything. So now you just want to do a little weaving here. So we'll put this one aside for the moment, and here's the thread we're using. We're just going to go through this bead to pull those together, and then right up this one, like that. And you want to make sure that these are nice and snug. And then I'm going to go down through this one again, and I'm going to go through this one. I mean, you can do this in any configuration you like. You want to just sew through the beads so that they're all nice and straight. So here I'm exiting a bead on this side here. I'm just going to turn it to the inside. So I want to get rid of this thread, and then we'll do the same thing for this one. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through the next bead over and through the ultra suede. And then I'm going to go right back through the ultra suede, like over, like just a fraction, so I can get, so this thread isn't showing. So right through the ultra suede and through the bead, like that. And you see, that way you don't see any thread. You can clip that thread off. I don't have a needle on this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to sew down, up, down through the ultra suede and back up again, and clip that thread off. And here we go. We have our cuff. So how fun was that? That was such a blast. These were all so much fun to make. I want to thank you again, Karin, for sharing your little cuff idea. I think it was great. I love it. And obviously, because I keep making them, all 3 bracelets that I made, I used in 3 different cuffs. And I think I'll make some more because I absolutely adore them. All right, so I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.